Okay, so let me share my screen and I will kind of give you a quick update. And I'm kind of like where we're headed with this. So, and also Joseph. So this is a diagram that Sasha out of South Africa put together um, around the GitOps process. In the GitOps process, we kind of picked four tools. Um, so one of them being GitHub, obviously. So we're focusing on GitHub initially, Captain, Ortelius, and Argo. So kind of the flow that we're looking at is we're looking at the CI workflow part of it. So this is like the initial check-in process. So we have our developers here coding away. They go ahead and make their commit into GitHub. Whether it's going to be a PR or a direct commit doesn't really matter at that level. From there, we go off to the Kepton side, and we're kind of using in this example, Kepton being the build engine. You could easily replace this with Jenkins or GitHub Actions. It doesn't really matter on that front. The reason why we chose Kepton because it had a lot of the event-based types of platforms or frameworks that we want to move towards instead of more of a traditional like Jenkins pipeline. So in the Kepton side, we do the push is complete. We do a Docker build. Once the build is complete, we push that over to our Docker registry. From there, we go ahead and calculate the digest for that Docker image. Just a weird side effect with Docker images, you don't get a manifest digest until it's actually living in a repository. So we go and calculate that, and that information from there, we go ahead and tell Captain says, I'm done with this information. Go ahead and tell Ortelius about it. So we have an event being sent out here that goes over to Ortelius, and Ortelius is going to do a couple things when it gets that event. One of the things it's going to do is it's actually going to create what we call a new component version. So every time you do a build, you get a new component version about that artifact. So all the information from the build system gets passed over to Ortelius. We save that as a component version, and we then go ahead and create a new application version. So application versions are made up of component versions. So we kind of have this version history that's going on. And then the next step after that's been completed is we go ahead and do the deployment. And when we do the deployment, one of the things that we do is we update the values file back on the GitHub side. So when we do this update to the values file, for example, that's going to be the one that Argo is going to be listening on. Kepton down here is only listening for source code changes, so it ignores that update to the values file. When Argo grabs it, it actually takes that values file and starts syncing the cluster, whichever one it is, to say that it's in sync with the repo. And once Argo is done, we need to have Argo send an event back over to Ortelius saying that it's been completed. That way we can kind of log the process. So we know the deployment started, we need to know when it's completed, and that's where we get an event coming back to that way. So I think we have one arrow wrong here on that. And then after that, once Ortelius knows that Argo is done with the deployment, Ortelius then sends an event back over to Kepton to say that the deployment was completed at that level. Once the deployment is completed, then we go into the kept in quality gate, and we go through and check that we have a good quality gate going on. You can kind of see it down here. And basically we'll just do some, in our example here, we're just going to do some basic monitoring. It's good to go. And then from there, we move on to the next stage of the pipeline, which is moving up to QA at that level. And then when we get to QA, the process kind of repeats, but some of the steps are skipped. Like the build step is skipped because we're just going to take the image that we built previously and just move it down and deploy it as part of that process. And same with production. Production and QA are pretty much identical at that level, except that what happens at production, after we get the quality gate, we're either going to decide we're going to roll back or if we're going to keep it there at that level. So that's kind of like the high level process that we've been kind of focused around with those tools. And we're trying to make everything event-based as much as we can, cloud events across all the communication at that level, except for obviously where we go ahead and update the Git repo directly so Argo can pick it up. Right now, we're not doing any GitHub, an event on the GitHub side. We're doing a direct update against the repo between Ortelius and GitHub at that level. So that's kind of where we're at, just to bring you up to speed what we got going on and what we're trying to accomplish. It's so amazing how complicated the GitOps model is when you start talking about microservices and doing this at scale. When we're talking about this step here where we're updating the dev values, this could happen across 100 different poly repos when we do the deployment of the application. So an application could have, let's say, 200 microservices, and we've updated 100 of them. We would actually at this point go ahead and update 100 repos with those new values, and Argo would go ahead and handle it from there. So that's kind of like where we have to wait for events to come back to let us know when things complete. So I don't know if that makes sense what we're trying to do, or if there's any questions that you have.
I've got a couple of thoughts from the captain side. So the first is captain is the workflow engine. So it doesn't natively have something to build Docker images. So I'm wondering what you're going to use to actually achieve that build, because captain's going to orchestrate those steps, but you're going to need to have something, a service in captain, or use the job executor service for something like Canico to build that image.
Yeah, and I thought Brad said that there was, like you said, like the job executor service or another, for lack of a better word, plugin that existed for the Docker build. Did I get that wrong?
Yeah, no, it'll work. I'm just pointing out that, you know, to suggest, just for clarity, really, that Captain Core sort of out of the box can build Docker images. I don't want that perception to be there, basically. So yes, we can use something like the job executor, which can run Canico to build those images. So that's absolutely fine. The other question I had is about the SLIs and SLOs for the quality gate. Where are they being sort of defined? Are you going to have a screen in Ortelius that lets people say, well, for this app, here is what I mean by quality, or how's that going to work?
We haven't thought through that yet. As far as how they're going to enter them in. Initially, it was just going to be the SLOs and SLIs at the repo level. So for that microservice, we would have those YAML files defined, like kind of like ahead of time.
Right.
to do to decide on what we determine as, a good quality gate
Yeah.
as part of that process. That's our thought right now.
Yeah.
If you have any better suggestions, we're open to it.
No, I think just lessons learned from the Captain project. Obviously, we're moving fully to a GitOps model, but newcomers obviously find GitOps quite hard to uptake. So UI is sometimes quite nice, just to kind of install a tool and say, right, how do I get started? For the basics.
Yeah.
But ultimately, yeah, as long as they're there, Captain isn't going to care. And even if there was a UI behind the scenes, you're going to be generating those YAML files anyway. So you get to the same point.
Yeah. We could at the Ortelius side, one of the things that we are looking at doing as an enhancement, so it's like the next step after we get some of those basics working, is to bring in either Backstage or Cookie Cutter. So when you go to a new developer wants a new microservice, they would go in and say, this is the name of it, I'm the contact for it, it's a Python fast API I want to write. And at that level, either Backstage or Cookie Cutter would go ahead and generate the corresponding infrastructure, for lack of a better word, like the Git repo, generate some stubbed out code, maybe configure, create a base deployment YAML file, some service YAMLs for Kubernetes, do all that stuff, maybe some Prometheus configuration or Istio at that level. And then as part of that, we could do the SLI and SLOs through one of those types of tools as well.
Yeah. And the final one was, how are you going to, because this is something I've been thinking of as well, is surfacing the quality gate result, just the pass, warning, or fail against either a microservice or an app itself? Or are you going to kind of surface that to the user, or is it kind of behind the scenes?
No, in Ortelius, we can have the that quality gate information. We're reworking some of our tables that we have to be able to have like columns to say what the quality gate looks like at that level. One of the tricky things is Ortelius looks at the world from across all environments, so all clusters. So it's like at the 50,000 foot view looking down. And that's where it gets a little bit tricky when you're looking across, dev, test, and prod environments, what they look like and what their quality looks like at that level. So it's more of like what we're running into is how to present it in the UI, other than, we know we can gather it. That's the easier part.
Yeah. Because I thought, my initial thought was start simple, and for an app at that level, just say, my app is healthy because this collection of microservices are healthy. And then if we want to drill into, well, my app is in a warning state, okay, let me drill in and see which particular microservice is in an error, failed the quality gate, so I can then feed that back to devs or whatever.
Yeah.
As a first cut, we could just have it at the application level.
Yeah. And one of the things is also when we start looking at the across, if we have 200 microservices that we need to look at and determine the quality or the health of that application that's made up of all those services, we're probably going to need to bring in open policy agent to help us determine that type of aggregation. So some of the services may be more critical than other ones that you'd want to give a higher weight to. So the policy agent is something that may come into play. We haven't done much with the policy agent, but we can kind of have this vision that policy agent's going to be needed down the road to help on the aggregation to determine if something's healthy or it actually does pass the quality checks at an aggregate level.
It's funny you should say that, actually, because I've just raised an issue or an enhancement on the captain side to have open policy agent. Again, I've never touched OPA, so
I'm in the same boat.
I've heard of it and it sounds cool, but I'm at that stage. But I'd like to have that for sequences. So, right now, anybody can run any sequence anytime, day or night, on anything. Now that's getting better with role-based access controls that are coming in, but it would be nice to say you're not allowed to run sequences during these times, during whatever conditions that you specify. Mm-hmm. An open policy agent, to me, right now, the nothing I know about it seems. So if you know anyone who knows OPA, would like
Ben and I know OPA well.
We've done quite a bit of it for the Terraform side. That was not, the docs were easy enough to follow, so we could just transfer that knowledge to this scenario.
Yeah, I know the one of the maintainers of it as well, so I can invite him to this meeting. He's really friendly. We can present to him what we want to do, and he can guide us to what to do as well.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think in part of the OPA is going to be how if we just give them a raw YAML file, or if you, like you said, Adam, for these new beginners, doing a UI of some sort to make things a little bit easier, some like predefined checkboxes or drop downs to make OPA designations a little bit easier for folks getting out of the box. And then maybe we just let them default back to editing raw YAML and do the advanced stuff at that level. I've seen that done in other tools where they have a basic UI, and if you want to go deeper, you gotta get into a YAML with a regular editor. But that's kind of the world that I've been envisioning. Like I said, it's surprising the number of moving pieces for GitOps. Everybody thinks it's like, oh, I just check it in and it's done. It's like, no. Maybe if you have a simple monolith container, it works that way. But when you get into the microservices, and you got hundreds of moving parts, it gets very complicated.
Yeah, I mean, it's good if you don't want to test your code.
Yeah.
If you want to just ship it, but one thing I'm working on at the moment is sort of spiking Argo rollouts. So I've decided to go down the Argo rollouts path just to start off with, because I'm trying to understand more about how much of the service mesh will do that work that Argo rollouts do. And I think that the service mesh will actually, we won't actually need Argo rollouts, but as a learning curve, it's actually a little bit more simple to do those different deployment strategies. So I'm playing around with Argo rollouts at the moment. One question I had for you, I'm quite interested in Backstage at the moment as well. It seems like there's a lot of similarities to Ortelius and Backstage. What are your thoughts on that, just for understanding?
Yeah, so there's two sides of Backstage. One is the onboarding side, and when you onboard, when a new developer wants to onboard a new microservice, for example, they pick for lack of a better word, a template that they want to use, and they fill in some basic information, and then at the end of the day, what you have is basically hello world for either your Node.js that you chose or a fast API Python program is out there deployed, up and running, and all the infrastructure, including like maybe Prometheus, Grafana, Stack Driver, all that stuff is like pre-configured for you. So what ends up happening is you eliminate the onboarding process that normally takes days into a couple minutes. on that side of things. So that's the one side of things. Now, what ends up happening is because the developer, that's the entry point for developers to get started. We gather information about like the name of the service, who the owner is, you know, what their phone number is, what type of program it is, what type of service that they're writing. And because of that, when you go to the other side of Backstage, and you look at, I think they can do some through the pipelines, the underneath infrastructure. Let's say it's a Jenkins pipeline that deploys the Helm chart out to a cluster. It's going to know that that happened because when they build that whole infrastructure level, they go in and stick in all their plugins across all the tools. So they get this constant feedback from the tools. So when Jenkins does a deployment to a cluster, it's going to get information back that happened. And that's where it will go ahead and take a look at the health of that, you know, do a basic health check and do some information at that level. I don't remember. I don't think it has a concept of an application. So it's basically at a service level. So you can't see this service is being consumed by, you know, 15 other applications. And also it has no versioning. So whatever is running in production is the one that you get the view of. So you don't have a view of what's happening in development, QA, or production. Like one of our customers has 17 QA environments. Yeah. So you don't get that view of what's happening across all 17 QA environments in Backstage.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Yeah.
So that's kind of the difference. Now, Cookie Cutter is similar. Cookie Cutter is a Python-based templating engine. I can't remember what Spotify wrote Backstage, and I think Go for some reason is my guess. But Cookie Cutter is a Python-based, and then they have just the same type of templating and stuff that happens at that level. Now, Cookie Cutter doesn't have it has the onboarding part, but not the monitoring part from what I remember. Does that help?
No, it does. Yeah, because I'm very fascinated with Backstage at the moment, and I was really, thanks for that explanation. I was really wondering the differences between it, and that's good to know.
Yeah, so that's why it's actually a really good fit for Ortelius, because we can gather that information through the UI about the service, and then we go and do the onboarding part, and we also do the component versioning part at the same time. So that allows us to extend the monitoring side of Backstage as robust as we can make it with Ortelius. So that's where we'll be able to grab that information, aggregate it together, and be able to look at the aggregation of an application across, you know, hundreds of microservices across maybe who is it? Chick-fil-A, who's a fast food chain here in the States. They have 3,500 Kubernetes clusters, one for every store in the States.
That's pretty cool.
So
do they use Cluster API?
I have no idea how they do it. I'm supposed to we're trying to get some more detail from them on how they actually roll that out. But there's basically 3,500 prod environments.
Yeah, that's the only way I could see that at scale is Cluster API would be good for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what platform, if they're on a Google platform or if they're in-house or, you know, AWS or what they got going on.
Sounds very cool. I'd love to do a project like that from scratch.
Yeah, it's and that's like the same with like Airbnb and Uber. Both of those companies run in every single region and every single AWS across the world. So, and they're in like for production, it's in several hundred clusters that they're running at that level. And what they do is at least what was it? I think Uber, they'll deploy to a specific region as a canary deployment. So they'll roll out to a prod version in that region, see what's happening, and then from there they'll start rolling out across all the rest of the AWS regions and sub-regions and all that stuff.
That's awesome. I didn't imagine.
So
look at the scale.
Yeah. So you know, like what you're looking at on the Argo side with the rollout or whatever it's called, roll up or roll out, I can't remember.
Rollouts.
Yeah. So that they don't use for like Uber because they're just going right to prod. They don't even worry about the like a canary 50%, you know, 25, 30, 50% in a data center. The you know, one region in AWS is 10% of their whole traffic. So things change when you get to scale.
Yeah, it's funny because whenever, for some reason, you know, Australia and New Zealand, that they always get rolled out first because it doesn't overlap with Europe or the Americas. So there's less people here, so we always get the bugs when the things first get rolled out. It always happens in Azure.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I just had another quick thought as well while we're talking. My brain's churning. Since we've already got the Captain cluster and the job executor will be installed anyway, would it be just a thought for future, not now, but putting like the ability to define custom tasks or extra things that users might want to do via Ortelius, but under the hood that gets translated into basically a job executor function in the background. So I don't even have a real concrete example. I'm just thinking to put some sort of higher level abstraction on Captain to say, you want to do this custom thing that doesn't come out of the box with Ortelius. Let's just, you know, abstract that away. And behind the scenes, the job executor just spins up a container and runs it for you and gives you the result back.
Yeah, I think that would be more along the lines of the cookie cutter or backstage. As we stand up the pipeline process, those would be the tools dropping in those custom executors as part of that pipeline. You know, now if it's, you know, if something like that's shared across all the developers, you know, then it makes it easy. We could do it just once, or when you onboard a new service to make sure that it's already existing in the cluster as part of the Captain configuration at that level. So I think that's one of the things that we're trying to do is to one of the goals is try to have ease of entry point into Ortelius and into the whole event-driven pipelines. So I think like along those same lines, maybe like a predefined shipyard of the typical, you know, 5 scenarios that you have, whether you're going to have, you know, dev, test, prod, or if you're going to go, you know, dev, test, QA, UAT, beta, alpha, prod, you know, whatever the scenario is, that we have some predefined shipyards that they could utilize at that level.
Yeah. Hey folks, sorry, I've got to run. I've got a meeting. Adam, I think you sent me a message, but I couldn't figure out what Slack channel or whatever you sent it into me, so I don't think I've responded to you.
That's all right.
But I'll catch up with you soon. I haven't talked to you for a while.
Cool. No worries, mate.
All right.
And yeah, sorry I've got to run. We'll update on Discord.
Sounds good.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Yep. Thanks. So does that kind of help in where we would be placing those custom job executors? And
yep.
Now the interesting thing is in Ortelius, anything can be a component. So we can actually have a component that would be that job executor. And as a prerequisite to my, let's say my component, I get a prerequisite that is a a Captain Docker build executor, that we could make that as a component that would get installed before the other component would actually use it. So there is a way from the Ortelius side that we could bring in and kind of do those on the fly as part of the process.
Yeah, it's one of those for future. Let's not overcomplicate things. It's complicated enough, but
and then the other way is in Ortelius, every component has a pre-action, a custom action, and a post-action at the component level. And then there's one at the application, a pre, post, and custom action at the application level. So there's like this stack that you go through that kind of builds up. So gives you information about, you know, the environment that you're deploying to, information about that, attributes from the application, attributes from the endpoint, and then application attributes from the component. And they kind of build up this stack, and we can do pre-actions at like the application level to make sure that everything is already installed. And I've done that before with our AWS demo. We actually, as part of the deployment, we have a pre-action that'll rescale our cluster. So we scale our cluster to 0 every half hour. So just to keep from wasting money, we'll scale it down. So there's a cron job that runs that scales it down to 0, but as part of the deployment to make it successful, one of the first steps we do is go ahead and scale it up so all the deployments work for that demo. And that's something we could do with the Captain side, is do that pre-action and make sure everything that we need is all those custom tasks are in place.
Yeah.
There's too many options.
Yeah. That's why I prefaced it with, let's not do this now, but for future.
Yeah, this is all evolving pretty quick. So yeah. Now, so where is it? I think it's can't remember if it's KubeCon or CDCon. The CD Foundation just started a new project. You probably heard of it as the CD Events Project. And they have a full day to talk about events, like a day 0 CD events thing. So I'm going to kind of I'm going to try to present basically what I walk through in our GitOps model as a presentation. If you're interested, we can probably get some slots for you to talk about, you know, what you got going on from the Captain side, and, you know, on your thoughts around events.
Yeah, definitely. I actually I've already reached out to Andy and Rob on two guys on the Captain side. I think one of them are doing a presentation, so obviously don't want to double up if they're already doing it. Let me chase them on that, but if not, then yeah, I'm more than happy to put something together.
Yeah, and I can't remember which one it is. If it's so, KubeCon is in May and in Spain, and then CDCon is, I think, in June in Texas or something like that in the States here. So, and I think they are, I know the CDCon one is hybrid, we've requested a hybrid model for doing our day 0 presentations.
The other project you might want to talk to just on that quickly is there is I think it's a special interest group for translation between different cloud events. So, you know, you've got the Captain cloud events, you've got Ortelius, you've got Tool X over here, but they're all different cloud event types. So, see you, Ben. Yeah, there's a kind of translation project going on. I'll dig out some info if you don't know about it already. But,
yeah, drop me the info, or just, even if you just find the name of it, I'll hunt down the rest.
Yeah.
And just I'm on Discord all the time, so just jump on the Ortelius Discord and just drop it in the whole group, because people drop things in there all the time about what's the latest new shell you know, that you should be using on Windows. You know, we're we're not picky in our Discord, not like some project groups.
Cool. Oh yeah, I'll dig it out. I'll dig it out.
All right, cool. Well, it looks like Ben dropped and Brad dropped. So anything else from your side?
No, do you mind if I can post this recording in the Captain channel, just so they're aware of what's going on? Cool.
Yeah, as soon as it, I recorded it to the cloud. So as soon as I get it, Zoom lets me know that it's been rendered. I'll get the link off to you.
Nice one. And yeah, as always, let me know if you know where to find me if you need anything.
Will do.
See you, man.
Cheers.